Hello, and welcome to another NABBW podcast. Tonight I'm with Irene Michaels to discuss topics related to her new book, Eye on Beauty Living Beautifully and Luxuriously Beyond 50. Welcome to our audience, and I hope that you're all enjoying the Zoom call. I know Zoom is new to some people, and other people tell me this old hat, but we're just glad that everyone has joined us here for live for what promises to be what I am excited about a fascinating discussion. And we're going to have three topics that we'll be primarily talking about tonight. So let me discuss that with you a little bit. We'll begin our chat with a discussion of what Irene calls the 12 myths about women and aging. I don't think we'll talk about all 12 of them because I want to make sure we have time for everything, but we can go back to some of the other ones if we skip them, and we'll get back to them later. Then we'll follow up with Irene's advice on her preferred at-home beauty treatments, actions that we can improve that we can implement while we're still all living with a COVID safe lifestyle. And I just saw a headline just before I came on here that said that France has locked themselves down for 3 more weeks or something. So it's just a ongoing situation, it seems. And finally, we'll talk about pets and why Irene sees pets not only as a source of joy, but also a part of a healthy lifestyle. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Ann Holmes, your moderator and the boomer in chief of the National Association of Baby Boomer Women, an organization dedicated to educating and empowering women at midlife and beyond. And my guest tonight is beauty and luxury lifestyle expert Irene Michaels. Irene is a woman of many talents. Over her lifetime, and did I mention she happily reports that she is 75 years old, she's been a dancer, actress, model, owner of a modeling agency, entrepreneur, producer, and philanthropist. Tonight, she's speaking to us as an expert on timeless beauty and living a luxurious lifestyle, a topic that she's not only written a book about, I have the book right here for everyone to see, but also she's been covering it on her website, eyeonthescene.com, since 2008. By the way, when you're looking for the book, keep in mind that the first word is not spelled EYE, it's the letter I, which conveniently stands for Irene. One of the first things I noticed when I looked at your book, Irene, is the glowing quotes from several very well-known people, including actress Jill St. John and former CEO of Playboy Enterprises, Christy Hefner, which are all on the back cover. There's several quotes on the inside too. I won't read them all here, but I do want to paraphrase the quote from actress Jill St. John. She says, Irene and I share much of the same philosophy about aging and life, also horses and dogs. Thanks to Irene, this book tells us how to experience aging and how to be the best you can be. What woman could ask for more? Thanks for joining us tonight, Irene.
Thank you for having me.
Irene, we've set an ambitious agenda for this evening, and I want to be sure we leave time at the end for those audience questions that I'm hoping we'll get. So let's dig right into our discussion. First, an important early part of your book is what you term the 12 myths of women and aging. And I'd like to begin by talking about several of them, and we can circle back, as I said earlier, to review all 12 of them if we have time. But your myth number one, women do not like to reveal their age.
Well,
Uh,
that's very untrue. I have no problem telling my age at 75 years old. And today, women they stay physically fit. They work very hard on looking good, and they're very proud of their age. Now, what I have observed is men are more cautious about telling their age. So I believe it's the men, not the women so much. So it's untrue.
well, I would agree with you because I've never minded telling people my age. At the moment, I'm 69, so I'm a little bit behind you, but the 70s are coming upon me really fast here. So uh, that I totally agree with that. You're revealing that that is a myth because I thought I was a unusual person who didn't mind telling my age, and certainly I haven't done any of the things that you talk about in your book that would make me look younger, but I still don't mind saying how old I am. So
Sure.
the second of your myths that I'm going to talk about, it's the fourth one. Aging means losing your fashion sense.
Oh, that's not true at all. There is nothing in the book that says because you're getting older, you have no fashion sense. Matter of fact, women who are older have a great deal more fashion sense. The one thing that, of course, they don't do, or several things, is not to wear low plunging necklines or mini skirts that are very, very high up and too short, or ripped and torn jeans, or too much makeup, or bold colors. Those are the things that you stay away from, and that's somewhat common sense.
Hmm. I've never been able to understand the ripped and torn jeans things. I think it's maybe because when I was growing up, torn clothes, it sounded like you were poor and you couldn't afford better clothes. So I see presenters on TV now with their ripped jeans, and I'm thinking, wow, things have come so far from when I was getting taught how to dress.
It's called fashion today, but
Yes. All right. Number 5 of your myths. Um, Wrinkles are the most important sign of aging.
well, that's untrue also because you can be very young and have wrinkles. More of a sign of aging is sunken cheekbones and dark circles under your eyes and aging spots.
I guess that makes sense. So we've just been conditioned to think that wrinkles are um, something that we need to freak out about.
That's correct.
All right. Myth number 7, using makeup with SPF is adequate protection.
Well, it's a myth that you don't have to wear sunscreen when you go outside. Even if it's a cloudy day, the rays are still there. They peep
Mm-hmm.
through the clouds. So never go out without some type of protection on your entire body. Sun is so damaging. You must stay out of the sun. And what's interesting to me is women will buy expensive creams and product to remove the wrinkles, and then they go and sit in the sun, which brings them right back. So it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make any sense.
Oh, that's so true. And when I think back to when I was growing up and being a teenager, one of the things that all my friends did, we just baked ourselves out in the sun. We even put baby oil on ourselves to and sometimes mixed it with iodine to give us a little bit better tan. I think the iodine was for, but we were just asking for skin damage. And I've talked to so many of people my age these days, and they tell me that they are um, just have a semi-annual visit with a dermatologist to have the skin cancer removed from their skin. And I think that's probably a lot of it has to do with the fact that we did not take care of our skin when we were younger.
It's very true. If you look at a skin um, under a microscope, a skin that has not been exposed to the sun compared to one who has, it's like night and day. It's crepey, 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 and dry, where the other skin is more supple and softer.
Hmm.
It's really bad for you.
Well, hopefully you will be able to get the word out about this and save a lot of people from damaging their skin. Myth number 7, is going on a little bit on the same topic. Um, well, maybe we just cover that, the SPF makeup. So number 8, an effective moisturizer can fight wrinkles.
Well, that's not true either. Uh, there are expensive products and there are not so expensive products. There's no guarantee that an expensive product will have an effective skincare use to make your wrinkles less. That's kind of a myth. If you just do the consistent regimen that you should be doing, that's what you need to do. It needs to be consistent, no matter what
Mhm.
your regimen is or what your product is. You have to do it day and night.
All right. And myth number 9, aging depends on genes in women.
Well, there is some truth to that, but it's not always hereditary. Aging does not mean because your mother and father look beautiful at 80 that you will. So
Hmm.
it's just that's not true. So,
All right. Uh, and myth number 11, diet does not influence aging.
oh, that's very untrue. Diet does influence aging quite a bit. I'm sure you've heard of the old adage, we are what we eat.
Hmm.
So we must eat very good, especially as we get older. I've always eaten well. My parents have always taught me that from early on. And so if we eat foods that are rich in antioxidants and omega 3s and all the veggies that we should eat and common sense, drink lots of water and plenty of rest. And for myself, I meditate during the day and it helps. It truly helps with my digestive system, the whole way I feel about food and how I look at things. So I think that's a very good habit to get into.
I have not ever tried meditation, but I do have a sequence of things that I do when I'm winding down at the end of the day that maybe would be close to meditation. I just work on slowing down my brain and everything that, uh, and it includes one of the things you talk about with is baths with Epsom salts. I make sure that as many times as I can, and I can't always be in a place where I can get a bath with Epsom salts before the bedtime, but it really gets rid of the any kinks in my muscles, and it's just a relaxing thing to do. So that's really not having anything to do with diet, but it has to do with some of the things that you do talk about in your book that uh, maybe go along with the meditation, the relaxing in the tub. So those were the you have 12 of those myths, and maybe we'll have time to get back to the rest of them, but those were the ones that I wanted to highlight. And then if we wanted to move forward a little bit, Irene, one of my favorite parts of the book was where you talk about treatments that we can all do for ourselves, which fit very well with our COVID lifestyle. I love chapter 6, Straight from Your Kitchen, where you gave recipes for do-it-yourself pampering. And then there was chapter 11, which discusses living a COVID-19 life. So right now I'd like to segue into discussing some of the at-home beauty and skincare treatments that you suggest you can do while we all stay safe at home during the COVID-19, which I don't know how long that's going to last. But the first thing that you talk about is um, what are the steps for a spa-worthy facial treatment?
Yes, well, we have to maintain healthy skin, and the first step to healthy skin is cleansing the skin with a mild cleanser, and then, of course, rinsing it off. And then you would exfoliate your skin with a mild scrub, not a rough scrub, but very mild. You can even use salt.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put your toner on, which maintains the pH in your skin. And then for me, I put my own moisturizer on from my skincare line called Ion Youth Collection by Irene Michaels. It's a serum that has hyaluronic acid in it. It's paraben free. It's like a moisture magnet, and it was written up in Life and Style magazine back in February 2016 as a miracle in a bottle. So that's what I like to use. You
Mm-hmm.
can use it on your hands and on your entire face, actually, and your creases in your mouth and between your bust. And it's also good for men. So that's one thing that I for sure will tell people to use because it really does work. And then you could give yourself a wonderful mask, and that is my favorite is avocado and oatmeal. So you would take an avocado and you'd smash an avocado, and you'd put oatmeal into it, and you make it like a paste.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put it on your face, all over your face, of course, not your eyes, and you leave it on for about 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, you rinse it off with warm water. And again, then you would moisturize. And that comes right out of your kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you like to do something for your hair, what I do is I boil water and potatoes, and I add rosemary to the water. And then at the end, when everything is nice and soggy, you clean the water out and you take the water and you rinse your hair with it. And it's very healthy for the hair. That's one treatment for the hair. And then I also use vinegar, white vinegar on my hair, and that closes the cuticles after you wash your hair. And after you wash the hair, then you, after the vinegar, you again rinse it with warm water. So
Okay.
two other treatments for your hair.
All right. Well, you did talk a little bit about the masks, the avocado and oatmeal mask there. Could you say a little bit more about the anti-aging benefit of masks?
Yes, well, wearing a mask, especially during COVID now, the anti-aging that happens is that you're hiding your skin from the sun. It helps as a shield from the sun, and so it does really act as an anti-aging shield. And so that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Okay. I thought you were going to be talking about masks like the avocado and oatmeal mask. I didn't realize you were talking about the
Well,
masks that were
that also, and
okay.
that also, yes, you can. And there's a variety of masks that are in my book. There's many different masks for the face, for the hair, for the body, and that's all in my book.
All right. And it is there. I enjoyed reading the
Yes.
information about the masks that we can create. Um, a third point from the book that I wanted to talk about is what's the difference between lipstick index and mascara index? That was a new one for me.
Yes, it was a new one for me too as I was studying it. And I'd like to read uh, a page or a paragraph about lipstick, the index.
Sure, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, this is from Leonard Lauder. Leonard Lauder coined the term the lipstick index and described it as an economic indicator. The purchases of cosmetics, especially lipstick, were directly related to economic health. In the case of coronavirus, the lipstick index may indicate more than an economic recession and pave the way for what is now being called the mascara index. If your mouth must be covered, then the next best way to treat yourself to a daily luxury is to focus on the eyes. This will include mascara that makes your eyes more outstanding, eyeliners and eye makeup that colors that matches all the masks, and that probably will be the new normal. And that was directly from him.
And now he would be related to the company Estee Lauder. Is
Yes.
that
Yes.
okay? Interesting. I really try to be very good about wearing my COVID protection mask, but I do think that it's so hard when you're out in public and you're trying to talk to people because half your face is covered up and it's so hard to know exactly the facial expressions that are underneath those masks. So I understand why we're going to have to make an adjustment. And this mascara index is a fascinating concept of how to change from lips to eyes. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing that. Number another one of the points that you made in that section of the book is how can you fix at-home hair coloring mistakes?
Well, we probably have all had them, especially during this time of staying home and not having the luxury of a hairdresser to go to. But for blondes, if
Hmm.
a blonde sometimes leaves their color on not long enough, it will make their hair yellow or turn it yellow. And uh, so the best thing for that is to buy a toner and tone it down, of course, or use a purple shampoo that would also tone the yellow down in the hair.
Okay.
Now, sometimes women have gone out of the house with dark roots, and the rest of their hair, the exterior of their hair, is two different colors. And so all that takes is another application of the right product, the right color to
Hmm.
match the root. So that's fairly easy. Now the tough one is when somebody dyes their hair too dark. There's no way to lighten your hair when it's too dark. You just either have to let it fade or keep cutting it because to try and bleach the color out, you'll destroy your hair.
Hmm.
So which I think we all have done one time or
I
another.
think
I
that
know
you
I
are
have.
correct about that. And there were some accidents. I know when I was young, not to me, I fortunately because I don't have blonde hair, but I remember some friends of mine who went swimming in the chlorine pool and turned their hair kind of green color as a result of that. So the that was
Happen. That can happen.
right. No. Now, speaking of hair, could you talk a little bit about hair loss and COVID-19?
Yes. Um, First of all, we as human beings lose 50 to 100 strands of hair a day. So that goes without saying. Now, during stressful times, it's worse, especially like COVID. There's been a great deal of hair loss reported, men and women.
Hmm.
Stress in itself will just stop the hair from growing and put it in a resting state where it just doesn't grow and it falls out. Also, hair loss could come from medical treatments, or it can be hereditary. And so that's just something that comes with age, also.
Hmm.
Mm, yeah.
Do you have any advice for how to counter the problem of hair loss?
You can get stem cell injections. That's one way of doing it. Um, Also, for me to try to stop the hair loss, this is what I was speaking about earlier with the vinegar. That does help close the cuticle and keep the hair shiny and healthy. And of course, a mask for the hair would be very good. Once a week, you could put a mask on the hair.
Hmm.
Sometimes, also, what I do is I put mayonnaise on my hair and I sleep in it overnight with a shower cap. And that makes it beautifully soft and shiny and healthy looking. And that comes from your kitchen.
Yes, I, I think that it's fascinating the concept of the eggs and uh, what else is in mayonnaise besides eggs? But the eggs would have some of that effect. I think that would help to make it so shiny. So I like your idea of mayonnaise, um, and obviously it works. So um, one of the other discussion points about the at-home beauty and skincare treatments, uh, I wanted to ask you: Did COVID-19 affect you in any way?
Yes, I think it's affected all of us, some worse than others, and some people have lost their lives, which is a terrible thing. Uh, for me, wasn't that severe, but I was planning a very extravagant 75-year-old birthday party,
Hmm.
and I had planned it for a year with my husband, and we had hired or rented a theater, and we were going to invite maybe 300 to 400 people that come in from all over for this big party. Uh, so I was very much looking forward to that. And my husband had asked me, well, what would you like for your birthday? Would you like maybe a piece of jewelry or a new wardrobe, or what would you like? And I said to him, I would like to sing with the Fifth Dimensions. And he says, oh, okay. And he picked up the phone and called the Fifth Dimensions. Now he's able to do that because he's a producer.
Hmm.
So that was exciting to me. And they were going to fly in, and I was going to perform a set of music with them as a surprise for my guest.
Hmm.
But of course, that didn't happen. COVID hit, and that whole thing just went down the drain. So that was disappointing. But then, fast forward a few months, I had some very serious back pain, and I went to the doctor, and I thought he would prescribe a prescription for my pain. And being 75, probably arthritis or something
Hmm.
like that. And he said, no, my dear, you need a hip replacement. And I said, well, my hip doesn't hurt. He said, well, you need a hip replacement. So, okay, I said, now let's go get it done then, because it really is bothering me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand. It just was impossible. And the problem is that because of COVID, they weren't having people come into the hospital doing any surgical procedures. Everything was
Hmm.
halted. So I said, well, I can't wait. How long is it going to take? And they said 3 to 4 months. And I thought, yeah, I'll just never survive that long. So my husband was very helpful. He had called a couple of his doctor friends, and they got me into the hospital earlier, like a month later. And the fear was to go into the hospital when so much COVID was already in the hospital. So what do you do? Do you stand back and be in pain until this is over? Of course not.
Hmm.
Do you go to the hospital and perhaps contact COVID? So I wasn't really sure, and that was kind of a dilemma. But finally, I did go into the hospital. It was Northwestern Hospital, and it was very clean. And they had private wings for all the COVID people, and then
Hmm.
people just regular surgical procedures. So I had my surgery, and that was fine, and everything worked out great. But then, with my downtime, which I had a lot of downtime, I sat and visited with my friend Suzanne, who the two of us together collaborated on writing this book because, of course, I had the time,
Right.
and I had some past articles that I'd written from my that was on my website already, and we took that and a combination of all my lifetime experiences and my tips and people that I've been in, have encountered throughout my life, and wrote the book.
Hmm.
I hope that my plan was for it to inspire women and keep in mind that there can be a lot of setbacks and tragedies, but you cannot be defeated. One of my philosophies is it's not what happens to you, it's how you handle it.
Hmm.
It's all about attitude and staying positive.
Yes, I could very much tell that by what you talk about in the book, events of your life and how they impacted you. Clearly, attitude is you are a wonderful example of having the right attitude and how you can turn something that some other people might think is a tragedy or a terrible crisis and a career-ending situation, as we'll get to here a little bit. Um, you had that happen, but you didn't let that stop you. You just changed careers. So, all right. So, uh, anything else that you'd want to talk about with regard to that, or should we get on to talking about the pets and that part of your life?
I think anything you would like, Ann.
You're you're here for all of us to get information from. All right. Well, earlier in the discussion, I kind of mentioned in the opening, Jill St. John commenting that you two share the philosophy that pets are a part of a healthful living and a source of joy. So I wanted to point out that anyone that leaves through your book and looks at the many photos can clearly see that you have a beloved horse named, I think at first I thought it was Mark, but it's really On the Mark is the full name of the horse, right?
Yes.
Uh, and and readers will learn that you had a very severe fall from your horse, which could have crippled you, but thankfully, with the help of excellent doctors and physical therapists, you now are able to walk again unaided. So that's another example of an animal that had been so important to you and still continues to be important to you. Um, but I also want to point out with regard to your attitude that this fall was your second serious accident. The first, as you discussed earlier in the book, was a car accident which shattered the entire left side of your face and ended your modeling career. And thankfully, since you are, as I just said, a never give up, never surrender kind of a gal, that accident eventually led you into acting. But I'd like to get back to you and the horses and animals. What impact have horses had on your life?
Well, they had a huge impact on me, and they still do. When I was a child, and I come from very humble beginnings, I would go with a young girlfriend of mine, maybe 10 years old, and she would go and take these riding lessons. I had never been exposed to that before. The horses I used to ride was the merry-go-round.
Mm-hmm.
So when she took me to this farm, and I saw how much fun it was, that was like love at first sight. Ever since I was 10 years old, I've always been riding horses. And then I was very lucky at a very early age, being 16, that I was able to buy my own horse. I worked, I saved up for it, and I've owned horses ever since. And horses, they're so regal. They're such big beasts,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very smart. Uh, some people don't think horses have a brain at all, but they absolutely do. And they are like dogs. They do recognize you. They can hear you. They do obey. Look at all the circus animals there are.
Mm-hmm.
So horses have made a huge impact on me. When I wasn't able to ride, I still went to visit my horse every week, and I take a medical van there because I I was in a wheelchair, and I'd be able to be pushed up to the stall and feed the horse and then pet him and then I'd go back home. And
Hmm.
eventually, after a year and a half, I was able to ride again. The doctors said that I would never ride again, and I just refused to believe that. So,
Well, I think that I'm a great believer in the power of the brain, so the power of the mind, and so refusing to believe that is in helped you overcome that, and I'm thinking that's wonderful. What impact did the riding accident have on your life?
well, what happened is, as I was riding my horse, there was a little hole in the ground, and his hoof got stuck in the hole, and I was still with my knees bent. So when he went over, I went over from probably 6 feet tall, about 6 feet, and I landed on my knee, which was still bent,
Hmm.
and it shattered my femur. So I had to be airlifted out of the field, and it was a long time before anybody could get to me because one of the rules in riding, and I was riding in a professional hunt that day, is that if somebody falls, you must keep going. You know, one person might be able to stick behind, but the
Hmm.
other riders have to continue to go, or there could be a huge pileup. So that that being said, there was one person that came off her horse. She decided she could help me, and we waited together for felt like an eternity for the ambulances to get there. So that was a kind of horrible experience, but uh, we all have setbacks, tragedies. It's just how you deal with it.
Hmm. And then let's talk about what your points of view are on the anti-aging benefits of pet ownership.
Well, pets are great. They're great for everything. They help fight depression, they relieve some anxiety. For our seniors, they help them get exercise when they normally maybe might just be sitting watching TV. Uh, it's there have been studies made that people who own pets live longer. Uh, it's very good for teaching children responsibility. It's a sense of security, and that's why we have our service dogs go into the hospitals and make the patients feel good, feel secure, feel loved, and not to feel so isolated. So they're
Hmm.
wonderful creatures. I myself have 2 dogs, 2 horses, and 2 cats.
Wow. Do the dogs and the cats get along? Because I've had a problem in my household with cats and dogs not getting along.
No, they get along, they play with each other, which is astounding to me because, like you, I thought they probably wouldn't get along, but they.
Hmm. Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, I had a situation with two cats. We acquired one one cat for each child, but apparently the two cats didn't like each other, and so we've would come home at the end of the day, and these are when the kids were grade school or grade school age. We'd come home at the end of the day, and we'd find things like one of the cats was on the kitchen floor in the center of the kitchen floor staring up at the cookie jar, and behind the cookie jar was the other cat hiding behind the cookie jar. So these, I don't know what the cats did when we were not home, but I do know that we would come home and one cat had the other one trapped, so they were just clearly, we did not understand enough about cats to know that we had to make sure that they both got along before we acquired more than one cat. So I admire that you have that many animals and they are all able to get along together.
Mm.
Um, I was hoping to have any audience questions that we could cover here right now. So I see Eva. Eva, if I ask you to unmute, would you be having any questions for us? Oh, she's apparently I haven't unmuted her. She's not talking. Is there any other things that people often ask you that you would like to cover as some things that we haven't discussed here? Irene, or shall we go back to some of your other points that we didn't cover in the beginning?
Well, I think people are always interested in how I remained so positive with so many setbacks and dramatic things that have happened.
Hmm.
And I think it's something you have to work on. Uh, it's not something that just comes automatically, but you have a choice. And it's very important that my readers and friends and family never give up and always
Hmm.
stay positive. That's a big thing uh, for me, and
Hmm.
I'm hoping that I could spread that inspiration to everyone because it makes such a difference in your life. There will always be a great deal of disappointments,
Hmm.
and so I just can't say it enough that you just have to replace a negative feeling or thought with a positive one. So I always encourage that.
Okay. I'm seeing Philip, Phyllis Banks says she has a question, but I'm trying to figure out how to unmute her. Oh, I don't see that. So, um,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Irene, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for sharing all this wonderful information with us. This is awesome. And I gotta say, you look marvelous at 75. You look amazing.
Thank
And
you.
I'm just wanting to know, what your diet is like, and if there are foods that really help in terms of anti-aging.
Well, I'm very careful what I eat, um, and I eat a lot of vegetables. I drink a lot of water, and that's kind of typical um, what people do if you want to stay healthy. But and I actually drink a glass of wine a day. And I think a glass of wine, what is an apple a day, keeps the doctor away. So I've just replaced that apple with a glass of wine, red wine, which is better than white wine. Um, I eat protein. I'm not strictly on only vegetables. You need to eat protein for your skin, and I think you stay away from the fatty foods, fried foods, and again, eating foods that are high in oxidants and rich with omega 3. I eat a lot of tuna, salmon, fish. So it's it's a good regimen to follow for me. I eat grains also. I eat nuts and almonds, which is a good treat.
Hmm.
Those are great. Thank you.
You bet.
I have a question. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes.
Hi. Hi, Irene.
Hi.
Um, I have rosacea. My skin gets very sensitive. Do you have any recommendations when what kind of cleansers or what I can do when people have very sensitive skin and it's kind of reddish?
You know, that's more of a medical question, so I don't want to say that I actually have an answer for that. But out of my experience with people who've had that, uh, all their product has to be very mild. You have to make sure, read the ingredients, what's in the ingredients, because something within that ingredient can cause irritation. The other that might be well worth it is to go see an allergist and find out what you're allergic to, and that can be reacting on your skin.
That's right. Okay. Because I did get some lip gloss once, and what I found is it got my skin really dry. And I think it was the alcohol content in the lipstick, I think dried it so much. So I don't use that anymore. So that's a great suggestion. I can check with my dermatologist what could be flaring up the rosacea.
Yeah, you have to be careful. I have a friend that had been wanting to dye her hair for a long time, and so she just went to a beauty shop and had it dyed. She didn't know that she was allergic to the dye, and her whole head was twice the size. So you really have to be careful with that,
Right,
especially if you don't know. So it's better
right,
to consult someone who can tell you properly.
Hmm.
right. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have questions?
I had one other one. You know, I saw on your book cover that you had endorsements from all of these wonderful folks out in Hollywood, Jill St. John and Christy Hefner and Rita Cosby. And I know that you used to be in Hollywood yourself. Can you tell me just a little bit about that part of your life?
Sure. I used to be in soap operas. I was on a very popular daytime soap opera called General Hospital.
Oh, yes.
I played the part of a nurse, and my co-star that I worked with was Emily McLaughlin, who was Nurse Jessie, if anyone remembers General Hospital out there. And General Hospital is still going on, and occasionally I'll go in and do a cameo appearance. But I've made about maybe 8 or 9 films, small parts. They were big films, but small parts. And I've always been interested in the arts. I've studied the arts ever since I was a child. And so, now I play the piano, and I study music, and I'm singing again, so playing my guitar. Uh, it's always a creative outlet that I enjoy.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Anything else?
You know, I did notice in your book that you talk about the importance of sleep. And so could you comment on that?
On sleep?
On sleep, that's where I have trouble sometimes, just,
Yes.
you know, not getting enough sleep.
Well, sleep is healing, so we have to sleep. And I myself have a hard time sleeping. I don't go to sleep very fast, and I don't stay asleep very long. So I think what you try and do is, when you go to bed at night, do you have your TV on? And what
Yeah,
time do you go to bed?
it really varies, and I think the TV is probably the problem.
Oh,
But
for sure.
yeah,
Sleep. It's too stimulating. Um, they have things that are so, I think it's melatonin, maybe, perhaps,
Hmm.
for sleep. And you can try that, or definitely not keeping your TV on, and it's also a sin of mine. But you need to have quiet, and you need to have a dark room. That will help quite a bit. And if you try to go to sleep earlier, you get much better rest before midnight. If you could go to sleep at 10 o'clock at least, that's great, or 11 o'clock the latest. But if you're going to bed at 10 and then watching TV to 1, you'll be up till 3.
that is my usual. But now that I see in your book that it really does contribute to your health and your sense of and your beauty, actually, getting more sleep is a beauty tip. I'm gonna make an effort
It really helps, it
to get
does.
more sleep.
One thing that I'll add there is Irene mentioned Epsom salts, and I talked earlier about that I try to take a warm bath. I like it a little bit hotter than warm, but a bath at night with Epsom salts. And my favorite brand of Epsom salts now has one that has melatonin in. So the type of Epsom salts that I've been using lately, it's a Dr. Teal's is the brand. I've been using the melatonin Epsom salts, and I find that I wake up much less during the night than I used to.
Oh,
So I
great.
would say that that might be the power of suggestion might be what's making the difference, or it might actually be that the melatonin in the Epsom salts is helping me to sleep better. So I'll just throw that out there.
Well, that's a great tip. Thanks for teaching us that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Irene? All right. Is there anything else, Irene, that you'd like to add that I didn't really cover well enough that I should have?
I think you've done a wonderful job, Anne.
Okay. Um, well, then I guess I'll just say if there's no other questions and you don't have anything more that you'd like to add, Irene, I would really like to thank you for giving us the chance to talk to you, for being my guest on this Zoom call, and for providing us with this excellent discussion on beauty and skincare for those of us who are 50 plus. And I'm really excited that you not only have the book, but the website, because I wasn't at all aware of the website until I started reading the book and then discovered your website. So would you like to talk a little bit about what things are covered in the website?
Yes, but before I do that, so everyone knows that they can buy the book through Amazon in Kindle or soft copy or a hard copy. So it's exclusively sold there. And my website is all about luxury and lifestyle. It has four sections: I on beauty, I on luxury living, I on the horse, and I on the scene. And so it reports on what's going on behind the scenes in California or Hollywood. I've worked the red carpets for several years now on different award shows. It also talks about a lot about beauty and how to remain beautiful and stay young and stay fit. And it's wonderful. I saw my products on there as well, and it's been in existence since 2008.
It's excellent. I wondered if you would talk a little bit about you and Suzanne and how you developed your cosmetics line. We really haven't talked about that.
Well, we both consulted a industry specialist, and through her help and her knowledge, uh, we Ion Youth was born, and that's the serum. We have a product line with a color correcting cream, and a cleanser, and a makeup wipe, and our serum. And so for many years, I had gone shopping, and I never could find the right product for myself. I just wasn't happy. So I decided to sit down and develop my own. And through the help with Suzanne and all the other people that I worked with, we came up with the product Ion Youth. And my brand is Ion, so it's Ion Youth, Ion the Horse, Ion Luxury Living. So I'm pretty excited and very proud of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, for all of our listeners, I thank you as well for joining us on this great call with Irene Michaels. And if you have been intrigued by our discussion, I highly recommend that you look for her book, Ion Beauty, Living Beautifully and Luxuriously Beyond 50. As she said, it's available online at Amazon.com in a Kindle version or a softcover version. I waved the softcover version earlier, but I have to say that when I'm taking my long baths at night, I do have a Kindle that I read because I've dropped too many real books in the tub. So I have the Kindle in a Ziploc bag, and that way I can kind of relaxing things and not wreck books anymore. So that I'm glad to know that it's a Kindle version as well as the softcover version. For any of us, anyone who's interested to know a little bit more about the National Association of Baby Boomer Women, you can check out our website at nabbw.com, and we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/nabbw. And if there are no other questions, then I'm going to thank everyone for joining us tonight and end the call. But I don't want to stop. We've got a few more minutes, actually, if anyone has any more questions.
Maybe I have a question for you, Anne.
All right.
How long have you been doing interviewing?
Well, probably about 10 years. But I don't do it as often as if I was a person on television or something like that. I interview about twice a month. I do an interview for NABBW. So it's something that I really enjoy doing once I'm doing it, but I kind of freak out before it starts.
That's normal.
Okay.
I used to wonder why the rooms were so very cold when I'd go on set or
Mm-hmm.
even behind stage when an act is ready to go on. It was just freezing. And it's all because of nerves. You know, you get nervous before you do something or you go on or you start an interview or a performance. And so it has to be cool. So now I know. It's very
Mm-hmm.
cool here right now.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you've got that figured out, and I thank you so much for this wonderful interview with you, Irene. It was excellent information, and I really appreciate your time and for Eva for getting us together.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And I guess I'll have to say good night to everyone and thank you for Zooming with us tonight. Uh, and please look on Amazon for Irene's book because I really enjoyed reading it. It's an easy read and there's tons of wonderful information in there. Thanks so much, everyone. Good night.
Good night.